Hi there guys, welcome to this Life of Marty. Today is actually Thursday. I filmed this yesterday and I couldn't help but think all day long about Orson Welles and how in 1938 he was reading a passage, I think from I want to say Mars Attacks. It was War of the Worlds, that's right. All you youngsters out there, if you don't understand the premise there was this fictional story about Martians who came and attacked the Earth. And Orson Welles went on the radio and talked about it as if it were real. He talked about being on a farm somewhere and he saw this UFO come down and these creatures come out. And then they started firing these weapons and everything was on fire. And people who were listening to the radio were freaking out because they thought it was real. The reason I was thinking about that is because I had just made this video and people were like freaking out because they thought that I had ruined my drone intentionally or that it was a result of some cabin fever insanity. And it's not the case. It was Hollywood magic. One of the ways that I do this magic on a daily basis, how I get through my life, is using tools like this stuff here. And I figured I would use today's video to talk about some of them. The thing I want to talk about first was actually the focus of a question when I think 2 days ago I was going through the mangrove tunnel. Keith, I believe his name was, asked me, what rig did you use for the over-the-shoulder shots that you did in that video? And this is it. This is a Scotty mount. This is called a gimbal mount. I'll leave a link in the description. But this is meant to go inside the flush mount and rod holders on a kayak. This is advantageous for me because at first what I would do is make a special mount on every single kayak for a camera, but then I wound up accumulating a lot of kayaks, so I needed something that I could use on any one of them, and this fit the bill. And this has become part of my everyday camera equipment. You can see on the end of that it's got a little twisty dealie, and that's what I put this in. And this is a custom-made locking piece that has a 1/2-inch female like a PVC cup link on there. Into that I put either this is a short selfie stick that I made myself. I've made videos about that in the past. This is a bigger version of that. I've had these for years, and with this simple stuff I've done movie magic on YouTube. Some of the things that I found important I kept. A lot of camera equipment I deemed unnecessary. Drones are one of them. They're really cool, but it's just a spice like salt that you add to a steak. Too much and you ruin the steak. The steak is the story. Make sure the story is good and your YouTube channel will succeed. Anyways, nowadays, in case you're wondering, I'm using GoPro Hero 7s. The stabilization on these is great. Some of my older videos was a little bit too shaky, perhaps, for some people. The Hero 7, despite the fact that it's buggy occasionally, has been a great camera. And then there's the clamp. This is just like a Home Depot clamp with a quick connect attached to it. This is something I rely on heavily because I can just take this and clamp it to a tree limb or whatever, a tabletop. And now I have a mounting point for my camera. This is the stuff that I use to create my my everyday videos. And one other thing that I would talk to you about is sound. Having good sound is very important. Right now I'm kind of raising my voice and talking to the camera so you guys can hear me. But if I have a lavalier microphone here, I can talk very softly and you'll hear me very good. And if you're on a kayak and things are knocking around, that's going to transfer right through to the housing of the camera and your audio is going to be terrible. One other thing that I wanted to talk about really quick before I let you guys go for today is the clapperboard. I bought this a while back. I'm not sure that I ever talked to you about it, but this thing is pretty cool. And let me give you a little history about the clapperboard. Well, maybe it's not so much a history as more of a practical approach as to why Hollywood uses these things. You've seen them before, right? When they say, action, like that. These are used for two different purposes. First, it has the information here. So when a director in Hollywood turns the camera on, it's seeing that and nothing else. I think in the old days, when they had film reels, you could take the first couple frames and it would have this on it. So you could look at the frame or the film and tell the description was written right there on every frame. So it was an easy way for the editors to locate certain shots that they were looking for. And in a digital age like we live in now, the first couple frames should be the thumbnail of the video clip, and then you will have, if you used a clapperboard, the information there. I, of course, don't have a big production. I just go out on my kayak, and I don't have a clapperboard with me. So instead of the clap noise, I will do something like this if I have a sound recorder on. And the reason for that is you will see a spike in the waveform of the sound. And you can take the spike that you see in the sound recorder and the less desirable sound that you get on the GoPro, you can see both of them in your editor and line them up really easily, and now your sound and your video will be in sync. So they do the same thing in Hollywood. Doesn't matter how expensive your cameras are, if you want really good audio, you should have a separate recording device for audio. So you need a way to sync it. That's where the clapperboard comes in handy. Again, I don't know if I've talked about this in the past, but I find that type of stuff fascinating, especially because it's part of my everyday life, and that's why I felt like it was a good idea to share it with you guys. So on that note, I will say thanks again for hanging out with me for another Life of Marty. And by the way, this is Movie Magic. If you're watching this Friday morning, I'm not drinking beer early in the morning. This is Thursday afternoon. Oh yeah, well, that's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, the drone debacle. If you didn't read the description in yesterday's video where I talked about this, the reason that I washed my drone in this sink is because the day prior I was out in the mangrove tunnels and I thought I was going to be clever and fly my drone through the tunnel. And I knew the risk, because sometimes I could have done it if the GPS cooperated, but the drone took off and it lost its GPS signal, so it started to just drift. And when I saw it doing that, I wasn't quick enough with the remote to stop it, and it drifted into a tree limb, smacked into the tree limb, and then fell bloop right into the water, and it was gone. And it took quite a lot of effort to retrieve the drone from the water. But I'm glad I did, because I was able to retrieve not just the drone body, but the SD card, which still worked. And I mean, I was pretty upset with the fact that I had lost a drone, but in the past I've lost GoPros. It's just, that's the way it goes. When you're on the water, you're filming, you're risking your camera equipment, and honestly, I think it's worth the risk to be able to produce this stuff for you guys and for myself. You know, I look back on, you know, productions I've made years ago, and I'm kind of tickled by it. So it's fun for me. It makes me a couple dollars because of AdSense on YouTube, and it helps entertain people during times of crisis, I guess, if they have to stay home, which hopefully will end soon. But that's for another day. I'll talk about that then. I'll stop rambling. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Where's that fish? I think I just saw a fish out there.